Good morning, everyone, again. So before he starts this, I'm going to talk really quick because this to me is golden. So I want to talk in respect to what the whole thing is and what you really are for yourself. So in respect to between you and the brokerage, what's the purpose or value that I have? What's the purpose of the brokerage to me? What is it?
Your value
Support.
information.
A mentor?
Mentor,
Support.
tools, marketing. These are all we are and so first of all, you're your own business. And when you decide to win in business, you're okay, what do I need to run my business? What do I need to help my business? So then you decided to choose a brokerage. But so the brokerage's only value to you is to provide help for your business. And we've just become a tool set for your business. But it's your business, you're in control of your business, and you're going to make decisions of whether your business grows, succeeds, does anything, doesn't do anything. That's it. When I first got in the business, I didn't understand that. I thought differently until I got to a brokerage and I joined, and then I realized it was different than what I really expected. I thought I was kind of more like an employee of theirs, and they, almost gave me customers and stuff. It's not that at all. So, so if you're your own business, you're making your own decisions, you're creating your own game plan, doing your own actions, you're making your own determination minute by minute what you do. We try to give you all of the backbone to make it most successful, and we should. That's what I feel our job is. And so as a brokerage, some of you have been here a little while, some of you haven't been here very long, some of you are very, very new. I do feel, and maybe Frida can vouch, because she's probably been here the longest of the group here, but even in the course of the last 12 months, have we not continually added more value and tools and stuff? So I feel, because now I'm my business, and I want my business to be better and better and better, because it helps agents be better, better, and better. So as my business, I have a responsibility to do that. I have a responsibility to serve you. I have a responsibility to support you. I have a responsibility to help you grow your business. I have a responsibility to give you the best tool set in the industry so that you look good, and you have more opportunities and all that stuff. So that's what I do. So it's important. So now you're your own business. So if you have a customer, now some of you may say, well, no, I don't know exactly everything I'm going to be doing because I haven't done that yet. But for the most part, if you have a customer, it's a process. It's really a process to get them from asking to buy a home to actually completing the purchase, or asking to sell the home and getting it to closing so they can move on to the next home. It's a process. And relatively, it's simple. It has its own challenges, but that's what we do. We support those challenges when you run into snags. But what's the most critical aspect of the business? It's getting customers, and that's probably going to be you're going to, as much as you can beat this into your head today, that it's getting customers. If you don't think it is, let's have this conversation 60 days from now. Because you're going to say, you know what, if I just had a customer, can I just have a customer? I just want a customer, please, so I can do this. If I have customers, I'm golden. So it's all about getting customers. And we talked about two ways to get customers. We can try to advertise for them, or we can try to, uncover them through building relationships and connecting with people. And that's what prospecting is. The difference between an average and a top agent is a skill set of prospecting. That's why we give you all of the dialogue and tell you to learn this stuff, put it inside your DNA so that when you have conversations, the conversations are meaningful and give you opportunity. And that's really the whole trick. So the whole magic to your business succeeding is your ability to find customers. Nothing else. Because if you find customers, you'll be able to do everything they need you to do till the end. And then your skill set in determining if the customers are viable customers is also another part of it in itself. So I'm going to, throughout the process of this courseware, I can repeat, because at the end of the day, you're going to either accept what I'm saying now, or I can ask you the question in 60 days and you'll say, yes, Scott, I've been rolling my wheels and I have no sales and no business and I have no customers. When you're going to have customers, it's the only way. So you have to work on this part of it. And this is a great place to start, because I feel and believe truly that people have more comfort or confidence or less fear factor to at least start having conversations and practicing and learning, talking to people they already know rather than complete strangers. I've had agents tell me the opposite. I'd rather talk to a stranger than the people I know. I'm not sure how to react to that, because I feel that everybody should have more comfort level in talking to the people they know, and the opportunity is big. So you're going to get a huge segment of your business, a significant percentage of it just from people, through the people you know. We already talked about 4. Everyone knows 4. So I'll let Greg begin, but I just wanted to share that with you so you kind of take it home. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Scott. So good morning. Happy Monday morning, everybody. It's a good time to be here, and there's no better way to invest in your business than to come into these classes. And I firmly believe that, and that's part of the reason that I made the decision that I made to come in and teach these classes every week for you. During intensity, obviously we take our classes, we ramp them up, and as we're starting week 2, I think some of you guys are starting to realize that intensity is going to live up to its name. This is not for the weak at heart. And, even from last week to this week, you've noticed there were some people here last week that aren't here. And, that's the reality of what this is going to do. But what I challenge you with is, as we start to talk about some of these concepts and some of these ideas as we go through intensity, not to lose faith in it. Not to kind of lose faith in yourself, because in essence, 90% of our success or our failure is right here between our ears. That's just it. That's the difficulty. That's the challenge we face is, like Scott said, we run our own business. There may come a point where you could roll out of bed at 10 o'clock and stop working at 3 and make a 6-figure income. But for most business owners, that's not the case. The most successful people in the world, and they did a study on this, I think it was in Forbes, and they said the uber successful, your Fortune 500 CEOs, they typically start their day at 5 o'clock, and they have accomplished more before lunch than most people accomplish in their entire day, because that morning time is when we're at peak production. Now, for people like my wife, her brain doesn't turn on until about 9 a.m., and she'll be the first to admit it. But there's a mindset to get up, start your day, get going, get things done early, because by 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm fried, I'm done. So when I make appointments and I do things like that, if I make listing appointments at 7 o'clock at night, I'm setting myself up for failure because I'm just not sharp. So I know this about myself. And that's part of owning your own business, is learning what really works for you. And part of prospecting, now, a big part of this is this mastermind. So this class is not going to be a lot of me talking to you. It's going to be a lot of discussion. So as we go along, I want you guys to kind of give me the feedback and let's really have a good dialogue about this. So we're talking about My Circle prospecting. Now we're going to do a little bit of review here. What 3 tools do you use in your business every single day? If you've been going through intensity, what are you using every day? Or what should you be using every day?
Yeah, you mean,
Like specific tools. Your phone, okay. Your CRM, absolutely. What else? Okay. Yeah. So the 3 specifically, my leads, you should be putting contacts into your database every single day. We want to keep adding to our database because this is your piggy bank. That is the best way that I can describe my contacts. That's my piggy bank. Because every bit of income that I'm going to get starts and ends with the contacts that I know, right? The second one is your Google Calendar. So Scott really harped on this last week. I could show you guys, actually, for those of you online, I'll try and show you this as well. Let me get back to my monthly view. This is my Google Calendar. I have my entire life into this calendar. It's all color-coded. It's all set. My appointments, I know exactly where I'm supposed to be. I've got all of my friends' birthdays and anniversaries with their homes because I'm doing birthday cards. I'm doing, you know, happy anniversary in your home. Here's an update of what your home has done in the last year. You know, different things like that. But everything begins and ends with my Google Calendar. And then the third one, for the purposes of intensity, is that spreadsheet. You should be contributing to that spreadsheet every single day, recording your actions, getting those kudos. Because what this is doing is it's setting those behaviors and setting those habits that are going to set you guys up for success long after intensity is done. That's why this is as tough as it is, because we're spending 6 weeks building those behaviors and getting you guys in the habit of doing these things day after day. So once we're not here harping this into you every day, you still go, you know what? It's 8 o'clock. I got to start making some phone calls before I go to my class at 10. Whatever it is, starting those behaviors and building it. Now, what 2 scripts did you guys practice last week?
prospecting and listing presentation.
Okay. There's one more.
Oh, my circle, my spheres one.
Your circle agent, and then the unknown person. Very good. So it's your unknown person and your circle agent. Those are the 2 scripts. Now, we also had you studying your listing presentation and all of that, but the 2 scripts that you should have worked on, the unknown person and the my circle agent. Now, how did that go? Were you guys practicing in the mirror?
No.
No? What about the rest?
I'll practice with somebody else.
Okay, good.
Me too.
This is my neighbor. She just moved in.
Well, there you go. What about recording? Did anybody record themselves? Yeah? How awkward was it?
It took me a couple times. This sounds terrible. I'll have to do it over.
And that's the whole thing. But again, it's all between your ears.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, this is what I sound like. I listen to myself on video and recordings and I'm like, really? This is what I sound like? But it is. And you just have to get okay with it. And I say the same thing about video. People don't care what you look like. You are your harshest critic. Just get on video and say what you need to say, and people are going to watch. It's just, I always say I have a face for radio, and you know, that's just what it is. But I have to, but what's funny is when I do post those live videos, when I go out and do it, the view counts are up and up and up, and I'm like, how do this many people want to watch something I have to say? It's amazing. But if you get in the habit of going through your scripts and really just building this in, then you can get out of your head and then your level of success just skyrockets. Now, if a seller asked for a listing appointment today, how ready are you? On a 1 to 10, 1 being totally not ready, I'm about to have an anxiety attack, 10 being bring it on, I got this. Where are we at?
About 3.
3?
6.
1, okay. Cindy?
I don't know, 4.
Okay.
5.
Okay.
I'm not 10, but I'd probably be like, not moving, freeze, maybe for certain things. I feel like I'm ready because I did a few open houses in showing.
Okay.
I know the engine, but I was like, I didn't know at the time.
Right.
I didn't have the answers. It was kind of, Elizabeth Roberts said, "Can you do this for me?" And I'm like, I didn't know anything.
Right.
There was no internet, and they were asking so many questions. By the time they was done, I didn't care if it was raining. I was there outside.
Right.
But like you said, it's just about practicing.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I did a few videos to myself in an open house,
Uh-huh.
and I deleted about 1,000 times. I never put it on, but
Well, there you go. You got to publish them. Videos in your phone do no good. And I say this about photos too. Everybody now takes pictures with their cell phones and they just live in our cell phones. You go into people's houses and almost nobody has photos on the wall anymore. People have digital photo frames and stuff like that, but the art of printing out photos is just disappearing. But when you're shooting video, if you just shoot it and go, okay, cool, and it stays in your phone, you haven't done it. You missed it. You've got to get them out there. So good job on filming it. Now just hit the live button and let it go. Where are you?
I'm not on the chart.
Okay. Well, that just means we got more practice to do, right?
What about the 7 on the scripts?
Okay.
What I am not good at is using the phone and taking the pictures. I'm old school. Okay?
Right.
And I gotta get over that mentally.
Exactly.
Because I don't feel comfortable.
Okay. So, the beautiful thing is we have these cell phones now and they've got 12, 14 megapixel cameras. I remember in high school, my first camera was 3.1 megapixels and I was stoked about it. It was like $1,000 camera. And now we have 14 megapixel 1080 cameras right in our cell phones. That's about as good as it gets. These Instagram filters and stuff, I'm like, okay, I just don't do it. But that's just exactly right. It's just kind of embracing the new technology and just getting comfortable with where we are. So now if you practiced every day, you should already be about a 6. And that's pretty much where most of you were, is right around that 5, 6. And that's the value of practice. Now, if I were to ask you this again in 2 weeks, I would challenge that if you're really working through your scripts, you're really practicing, recording, doing the videos, getting out and doing it, if you're not an 8 or a 9, we're missing something. Because by the end of 3 weeks, you guys should really have this script down. You should be like, you know what? I can conquer the world. I've got this. But the challenge becomes we're going to add more scripts and we're going to add more situations and more scenarios. So we're going to keep building on it. So don't get too comfortable. Don't start resting on your laurels just yet, because we've still got a lot of work to do. Now, how did you do completing your accountability actions? We kind of looked through the spreadsheet on a few people, but how did you do? Okay. Room for improvement? Yeah. Okay. So the good thing is, we've gotten through the first week. We kind of figured out what intensity is about. We're really kind of getting our feet wet. And now we can go in and say, okay, now I know how to grow. Now I know how to do this better. So that by the time we get through week 2 or week 3, we've really kind of got a good grasp on some of these behaviors and some of the actions. So one of the things that we should have done is create and print your listing presentations. So that's the challenge. If you haven't done that yet, it's going to be really important that we do. Because this listing presentation, if we're doing the things that we're supposed to be doing, you guys should be having listing appointments sooner than you think. And so what we want is we want to get you from that 4, 5, 6 level comfort that you can walk in and go, you know what? I've got this listing. Because ultimately that confidence is what's going to set and catapult our success when we start to do this prospecting. So this is our foundation and our groundwork. This is kind of the cornerstone of being able to really establish a solid business that's going to continue to grow and thrive, not just for the next week or month, but years. difficult, and I struggle with this, but real estate is an industry, has an 80% washout rate in the first 2 years. 80% of real estate agents never renew their license the first time. That's astounding. But the good part is, you guys are getting this foundation to be able to become part of that minority. That's what we want to set you up for. And so by making this investment into yourselves, you cannot be part of that 80% washout, but you can be part of the 20% that can stick it out. Now, of that 20%, how many of you, or how many do you think, percentage-wise, make it to their 5th year in real estate, or 6th year, their 3rd renewal?
5%.
So it's about 20% of that 20. So basically 5% of all real estate agents make it to their 3rd renewal, so 6 years. That's pretty interesting. So what we're finding is there's always real estate to sell. I don't care if it's a good market, a bad market. If you can adapt, you can sell real estate. There were agents that made a really good living in 2007, 2008, 2009, when the market was in the toilet. But by having these behaviors, having these foundations, having this groundwork, you can set yourself up that your business does not become dependent on the market. Because we're going to set these behaviors that will work in any market. And so that's the important part of what we're doing. So if you think about this from the bigger picture, you think about it to say, you know what? I want to do real estate. This is what I want to do. Then we're going to instill these behaviors that will allow you to continue to do that. And so that's why you guys are in a very unique position to be able to thrive and grow completely independent from whatever the market outside those doors do. And that's the value, and why we really want to harp on this so early in intensity. That's why we do this in week 2. Because once you get through week 1, the introductions, this is probably one of the most important classes that we can go through. Now, one of the other things is to set up your required tools and services. So having your app ready to go, having your website in the back office, having your bio written. How are you guys doing on those? Good? How about your Google Calendars? How set up are those? Okay.
After I learned how to do the custom.
Yeah.
Integrating all of it.
Yeah. Well, and so for some people, having the actual notebook works really well. The difference is, in Google, if somebody calls and goes, hey, I need to move my appointment from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, well, now I'm not scratching it out and having to rewrite it. And, you know, here's the other value. Let's say you guys grow and you start to become a team. How do you share your paper notebook with anybody else? You don't. My wife and I run into this because my wife is selling real estate now. So she will schedule an appointment and go, hey, I've already got something. I need this to be on your calendar. Well, the good thing is we share a Google Calendar, so she can put it in, color code it to me, and then within about 15 seconds, it's in my phone. So this was a challenge because for her, everything stayed up here, and she would remember everything she needed to do. But the problem is, if it's not in my Google Calendar, it doesn't exist. That's just how it works. So by taking some time and really getting these things set up, your databases, you know, your Google Calendars, your different schedules, by getting those set up, you are just putting yourself in a position to be able to be successful. Now, practice prospecting scripts. How'd you guys do with working through those every day? Okay. Okay. But do you guys start to see the value in what happens when we actually start doing them? Okay. So what is the challenge then for you guys to go through and do it? Is it a time issue? Is it what is it?
With me, I just have to stop early in the morning.
Okay.
I teach sometimes, so that.
Oh, okay.
This is 2 job schools.
All right.
You doing that?
I have a full-time job and I'm a single mother of 3. So
Okay.
It's a lot of a time issue.
Yeah.
It's the first thing on the shopping block when you're running out of time.
And that's exactly it. So it has to become one of those appointments that you're not willing to cut.
Mhm.
And the problem is, it's not a lot of fun. It's just not. I mean, let's be honest. It's not the most exciting thing I'm going to do today. So exactly to your point. And if I could go do this, or I could go, do something else. I'll give you guys an example. This morning, I had to go get a new tire for my wife's SUV. I was there at 7 o'clock when they opened. But what do you think I did for the hour when I was sitting there waiting for the tire? Making calls, scheduling text messages, sending emails. Now, for me, would I love to have sat and watched Good Morning America or whatever it was they had on? Absolutely. But I know that these are the things that drive my business. And if I get into the habit of not doing these things, and it's really easy to make an excuse. Crap, I gotta go get a new tire this morning. Okay, cool. Well, that's a very good reason to not do the other things that I try and do in the morning. But I had to maintain that discipline to say, no, I need to schedule these text messages, because let's be real, nobody wants a text message at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I schedule them for, 8:30, 9 o'clock. But I have about 25 pending text messages that are all set to go out. And that way, by the time we finish this class, I've got some stuff rolling. So it's very easy to make excuses, exactly to your point. There's a lot of reasons why I don't really want to do it, but we just need one good reason to keep doing it. And for me, I know what happens to my business when I stop doing it. I've gone through periods where I'm like, sweet, I've got $1 million in the pipeline. I'm good. And then I stop prospecting, and then those deals close, and it's, oh, well, now I go 3 or 4 months without a closing because I've got to generate new business again. Even if I get a contract today, I don't get paid for 30, 45, 60 days sometimes. So the work that I'm doing today, I may not realize for 2 to 3 months. So if I stop doing those things today, I've put myself 90 days behind. So even when I've got tons of business in the pipeline, I've got to keep cultivating. You have to keep working your sphere. Now, practicing the listing presentations. We talked about the scripts. Listing presentation, we've kind of harped on this a little bit, but it is absolutely vital. And look at this. So setup is worth 100 points, right? 100 kudos. The scripts and the presentations, how much are those worth? You think there's a reason that we assign a higher value to it? Because we don't want to do it, and because there's a lot more value in doing these things. Okay, cool, I set up my tools and services, I get 100 points, that's fine. But if I'm practicing my scripts and I'm practicing my listing presentation, those things have immense value in my business. So there's a correspondence to the number of kudos that I can get just as a make myself feel good, but also in terms of what is the value of this in my business. So we kind of assign point values or kudo values based on the importance of how significant these things really are. So pay attention to that. Now, watching the training videos, how'd you guys do with getting the emails and watching the videos that were sent? Was there value to those videos? I would hope so.
Absolutely.
I like when they jump to another playlist.
Yeah,
Because all that information was good.
absolutely.
And it's a great way to start your morning.
Right.
too.
And that's what I really love. I have found that if I can get in and do my meditation video, or I can do my, whatever it is, watch those videos first thing in the morning and kind of get that stuff in, it just sets the tone for the rest of the day. Now, just while we're on this, and I'll caution you guys, starting Facebook first thing in the morning is one of the worst things you can do for your business. Because on Facebook, it's all drama and things like that, and that's not how you want to start your day. I would also challenge that checking your email as soon as you roll out of bed is probably not the best way to start your day either. Because then it's, crap, now I'm stressed. Now, I'm sitting there, I've been up for 15 minutes, and I've got this email that already has me stressed. Well, no, let's start our days with the right things. Let's get some of those good videos, get me in the right mindset, and then let's deal with the stress. Let's deal with the drama. Let's deal with all the other stuff that's going to hit us every single day. But if we can get in the right mindset and start our days properly, then we don't get as bogged down. And my wife can tell, she goes, you checked the email this morning, didn't you? Because I'll get out there and I'm just like cranky and I'm just like, or I'm just kind of in a funk. And we've been married almost 15 years now, so she can tell the difference. If I get up and something hits me right out of the gate, my whole day is shot. It's really hard to bounce back from that. So I've learned email can wait till 8 o'clock. That's not my 5:30 action. That's my 7:30, 8 o'clock action. Once I've done these other things that I need to set myself up for the day, then I'll deal with it. Because let's be real. Do we need to respond to an emergency at 5:30 in the morning? No. Problem's still going to be there at 8 o'clock. And then people might actually be awake to be able to deal with it. You know, the title company, they don't open till 9. If I read this at 5:30, I'm stressed for 3.5 hours when there's nothing I can do about it. Title company's not open. I can't talk about why this closing has now gone pear-shaped because there's nobody there to talk to it about. But it's going to eat away at me that whole time. So the training videos, like you said, it's a great thing to do first thing in the morning. Get yourself into that mindset of, you know, hype videos or just kind of something that's going to get you started on the right foot. Now, add existing contacts to my CRM. How many kudos does this have?
Oh, wow.
All of them. Do you think this is important for your business? Maybe just a little. Because at the end of the day, every time you add contacts to your database, that's your piggy bank. That's where all your money is going to come from. So, again, look at the values to some of these. Now, 40 contacts a day, that may seem like a lot. But in the end, the more people you can build into your database, the better your business is going to continue to survive. So let's say you don't know a ton of people. You know, you're newer to the area, whatever. How do you go about adding new people to your CRM?
Prospecting.
Oh.
Okay. What about asking people you know? Sometimes it's just asking a question.
How do you get their personal information? How do you ask that?
What do you mean?
Like, you know, when you're prospecting some people that you don't know,
Mhm.
you know, say they don't know, dang, that's my daughter. I'm
No
sorry.
worries.
I gotta pick up on that question.
We'll come back. Yeah, we'll come back to that. But adding existing contacts to your CRM. So you're talking to somebody, you know, and you're like, hey, so, you know, who do you know that's looking to buy or sell real estate? Well, nobody. Okay, that's maybe true. But here's my challenge. I want to follow up with you next week. I want you to start listening to see if you hear the word real estate at all. Because what I find, and I've used this example before, I have it in my head, I want the new Tesla. I want this Tesla so bad I can taste it. What do you think I see every time I drive down the road? Every Tesla that has ever been within a 5-mile radius of me, I see it. Now, I work by referral. So when people are buying or selling real estate, what do you think they notice? Every for sale sign that's in every yard. And every person around them now is suddenly mentioning the word real estate, and they're honed into it. So this is part of the primal part of our brain. When we are focused on something, we become very acutely aware of that all the way around us. So sometimes when you're talking to people, if they're like, hey, I really don't know anybody, my challenge is, okay, for the next 7 days, I want you to just listen to the word real estate. Anytime you hear the word real estate, I want you to think of me and go, hey, I've got a realtor for you. And what I found is some of my best business has come from somebody who said they had nobody they knew. Because now all of a sudden they start hearing it. And then they're like, oh, Greg was just asking me about it, who I knew in real estate. And now you mentioned that you're looking to buy or sell a house. Sometimes it's just getting that mindset, getting that part of your brain to realize it. So the power really becomes in having those conversations to be keyed in on what we want people to do. Because at the end of the day, if people know, like, and trust you, they want to help you. They would love to send you referrals. But the reality is, and most of the time, people are not thinking about real estate if they've been in their house for a while, they're not remodeling. I use another example. You find out you're pregnant, or somebody you know is pregnant. Do you start noticing pregnant people everywhere?
Mhm.
Because it's just the way our minds are wired. So you want to just get them tuned in on that one thing, and then all of a sudden that referral source starts to grow, and then adding 5 or 10 people a day doesn't become so difficult. Part of it for us too is just triggering our brains to ask for it. So I'm always thinking real estate. I can't turn it off. It's just who I am. So I can be walking through Publix and I can be totally focused on what I'm doing, and somebody goes, "Oh, Bob's looking to buy a house." Hey, I'm Greg. Have you met? It's just who I am. And I have no fear of talking to people. It just, my wife and I laugh when we lived in Nashville. We'd be standing in line in Publix, and in 5 minutes, you would get the person behind you's life story. I have no idea why. It's just kind of the culture there. So what I learned to do was, oh, okay, cool. So while I'm getting your life story, cool, you got 3 kids and another one on the way. You're looking to get a bigger house? Oh, as a matter of fact, we were just talking about how we don't have room for the new nursery. Cool, here's my card. Let's talk. It literally becomes as simple as that. So don't get totally inundated. If you can't add 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 people to your database every day, let that be part of your goal. Let it be something that you grow into. So in week 1, let's say you added 5 people a day. For week 2, let's try to make it 8. For week 3, let's make it 15. Let's work to grow that as we start to learn the skills and the habits that allow us to be more successful. This becomes much more attainable. But again, we need goals that are measurable, attainable, repeatable. Those are the kinds of things that we want to be able to grow into. Create 3 buyer packets. Now, how many of you guys have written offers for clients yet? Anybody? Okay, a few. What we want to do this week is we want to create 3 buyer packets. So you go into the back office, you go into the buyer form wizard, and actually create 3 buyer packets. And then get used to going through those buyer packets and explaining what's actually in each one. So the first form it creates is the TRID form. You guys know what it does or what it's for? So basically what it says at the bottom is it allows the title company to give you the closing statement to be able to review. Without that, because of the new lending laws, the title company is not allowed to give that to us. Doesn't tell us anything about their credit score, doesn't tell us anything about anything other than we get to review that closing statement. And the reason for that is we get to then go in and make sure that the sales price is correct, the commission amount is correct, all those things are right. You don't have to learn the entire closing statement. And we're actually going to do a class, I was talking to Becky about it this morning. We're actually going to do a class on what happens in title from contract to closing and how to read those closing statements and things like that. But in essence, you want to be able to explain what people are signing. Because there are a lot of people that just go, oh, okay, just give it to me. I'm just going to sign, and they don't read anything. But for those clients that go, okay, well, give me a quick rundown of what it is that I'm signing. Same thing with the broker to buyer disclosure. You want to be able to read through those and be able to explain at least the key points of what they are. So I want you to go in this week and create 3 buyer packets.
Yeah, I thought I did. It's not as like when you do the listing presentation, when you go on to marketing and you put the buyers.
No, so this will actually be, hang on, I will go over to, let me go into the back office here and I'll show you.
This is Greg.
Sir.
I did this. I don't know if you want to look at it. It's a buyer presentation. I think this is what you're looking for.
So I did the wrong thing.
Yeah,
there.
so you can
Thought I
do,
did it.
actually, yeah, let's do this. Sorry, let me log back in here. Yeah, we can actually do that. That's fine. So, Mark, there we go. And then buyer handouts. So this is a good thing to do as well.
That's what
The
I
buyer
did.
handouts,
That I
yes.
thought was a package.
Yeah, so you can do this, absolutely. And you want to have some of these with you. And there is value to understanding these documents as well. What it does, it has your introduction letter. It's got 7 steps to buying a home, your services, communities and lifestyle. So absolutely get comfortable with these as well. And that is certainly part of it. With this, yes, you put your buyers' names down here and then you can create them. Now, keep in mind, not every document in here is designed for every single buyer. So as you learn your buyer scenario, let's say, for example, they're just downsizing. They're going from the big house to a small house. Do they really need to know about buying versus renting?
No.
Probably not. It doesn't really apply to them. Preparing to buy. If this is somebody that buys a new house every 2 years, do they really need all this checklist of, no. So understanding who your clients are. If they're buying pre-existing and they're not buying a new home, do I need to include the values of buying a new home? Well, no, because that's not what they're looking for. So yes, understanding this is important as well, for sure. There we go. Do you guys have any questions about these before we move on?
You just answered the question because I have a few things print out. But
Yep.
I print everything on it, and then the question was how you
determine what you
determine
use?
who
Yeah.
is for whom.
Exactly.
Are you showing those? They look great.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, would you put in, if you're marketing in a particular development, would you show the listing, the person who wants to list their house, everything that's sold, and then everything that's pending to show them what they're.
Sure. As part of when you do your comparative market analysis, when you do your CMA, that becomes part of it. And yes, that is definitely part of your listing presentation. For this is more, I'm meeting a buyer and I want to give them some information about who I am, what I do, and why I'm the person to work with them. Because that's really where we are at this point in our business, is we're trying to generate business. That's part of prospecting. So part of it is, why are you going to choose me versus the other 3 realtors that you may know? And these are the sheets that we can use that really set us apart and help us to be effective with that. Does that make sense? All
Are
right.
there additional ones that you were talking about for the buyer's packet? It's just the handouts. correct?
Yeah, so primarily the buyer's packets are those. Let me present from current slide.
I print this
Yeah.
out because I was
So I did do a little.
surprised.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, okay.
I was,
Surprised
Thinking
the
you do it
department, I
separately.
didn't have anything, other than the business card.
Mhm.
He was trying to, I was rejected because I didn't have nothing. So
Right.
I went to the office and they have this for like 80 cents.
yeah, I would say those folders are less than $1 a piece. They're well worth it. Yeah.
Even for a buyer, if they tell you that they like 3 neighborhoods, or they like one neighborhood
Mhm.
because it's got all these,
Features
pools
and- right.
tennis courts and
Mhm.
everything. So then, if for a buyer, I would show them what else is out there, and, and show them maybe a couple of neighborhoods that are similar,
Sure.
and show them what's sold and what's pending, because then they have a good idea of the market.
You can. What I've found with most buyers is they don't care what's already sold because they can't buy it. What they're more interested in is what is actively available for me. So yes, the education aspect is important to show them, hey, here's some other properties that have sold, they sold quickly, they, whatever. But again, most buyers are WIFM, what's in it for me? So we want to be able to use these packets. Now I'll tell you, I've worked with buyers where I show up and I have on the left-hand side of my folder those buyer handouts, and on the right side I have the MLS sheets of what we're gonna look at, and I just hand them the folder and they're like, oh, well, every other realtor I've ever worked with just handed me a stack of papers and said, here's what we're gonna look at today. Now I've gone, they don't know what these folders cost. To them, this is a significant investment that I've just made into working with them. So when we go in and go, hey, as your buyer's agent, I basically work for you for free. The seller's actually gonna pay my commission. For you, the cost is pretty inconsequential. It's just that admin fee. But I'm still going to make this investment into you. I'm going to give you this presentation of information that is about me and about my company and about all the things that nobody else is going to do for you. And now all of a sudden, do you think they get a bit more loyal to wanting to work with you versus the other 3, 4, 5, 10, 50 realtors they know? Absolutely. Have we made a significant investment? No. But do they need to know that? Absolutely not. That's the beautiful part of what Florida Luxury does, is we set you guys up for success to be able to compete in a highly competitive market and to win. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to. Now, prospect unknown person. We just did this script, right? Last week, we hammered it in and hammered it in and hammered it in. Now you get to go out and do it. So prospect unknown people, where do you do this? Everywhere. Starbucks, Publix, you know, the street light when somebody's yelling at you, I don't know. I wouldn't do it in traffic on 19, but you know, anytime you guys are encountering somebody, and part of this circle prospecting is being out, meeting people. Do you meet a lot of people if you never leave your house? Nope. All of the business that we do happens out there. Now I just have to laugh at this photo. So this guy over here looks like he really has to pee. I have no idea what they were accomplishing here, but he's holding toilet paper and he just looks miserable. So I don't know. I was amused when I went through the photo. Now, tracking your daily results. If we don't track what we're doing, can we measure how well we've done? No. Is this true of just about every other aspect of our business? And our life, absolutely. So I use another example. When a person gets a disease or something, the first thing the doctor says is track whatever, whether it's what you're eating or, you know, whatever it is. You know, check your blood pressure 5 times a day and track it. And let's see if we can find trends. In essence, what this is going to show us is if I'm tracking my daily results and I find that, you know, I'm talking to more people on Thursday and Friday than I am on Monday. Well, do you think maybe I'm going to start investing more time to talking to people on Thursdays and Fridays? Definitely. So what I found is in my real estate business, Wednesday was my slowest day. Nobody wanted to look at properties. Nobody wanted to do anything on a Wednesday. Don't know why. It was just the people that I worked with that happened to be true. So I take my day off as Wednesday. I didn't have a lot else going on anyway. So rather than spending the day spinning my wheels and not accomplishing anything, why don't I make that my day off? I work on Saturdays. That's when everybody's off and wants to look at houses. I don't get weekends. Let me take my Wednesday. So even now, that's my day off. So my phone gets forwarded to Dan and, you know, he takes care of you guys on Wednesdays. That's just my day. So, but I had to do months of tracking to go, how many properties did I show on a Wednesday? Well, 1, 2. Okay, cool. Could I push that to Thursday and freed up an entire day rather than I show 1 property at 2 o'clock? Okay, cool. Well, my entire day is shot. And by the time I drive there and do everything else, I could probably do something in the morning, but my entire afternoon is shot. So by tracking your results, you may find that there's a day of the week that you're more effective at whatever your method of prospecting or whatever it is. So by tracking your daily results, you're able to figure out what your trends are so that you can focus your time on things that are going to get you the best results. Now, do you guys have any questions about what we've covered so far? No? Okay. So we've kind of looked back at to what week 1 was and how we're going to do it. So let's start looking forward. Now, what we're going to take is we're going to take that foundation and now we're starting to build some walls, right? So this week, prospecting your circle. How many kudo points do we have up here?
6,000.
So, you guys think this is important? Yes. Prospecting your circle. This is what we're harping on. Now, how do I prospect my circle? That's kind of the pretty important question, right? I need to add contacts to my CRM. I've got a call using my telephone script. I'm going to launch my email campaign. I'm going to schedule some follow-ups. I'm going to add people to my smartphone, and then I'm going to use an intensity tracking system, which is our spreadsheet.
Now, if you only have a Facebook is the only way that you can get to them, do you ask for their phone number? Or do
Absolutely.
you just try to prospect them through the Facebook? You should get the phone so that you can talk to them, right?
Mhm. For sure.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah, so the value is every time you talk to somebody, save them in your phone. Because here's what's interesting. I talked to a woman about a year and a half ago. She called on one of my listings. She was like, hey, I'm interested in buying this house. Well, it turns out she wasn't ready, whatever. Okay, fine. A year and a half later, she calls me. She pops up, and it was like Robin and I put the address that she had called on. So I'm like, hey, Robin, I haven't talked to you in a while. How have you been? That's how I answered the phone. And she was like, holy crap. I'm like, hey, so we were looking at that house in Gulf Harbors. Is that still the area you want, or are you looking for something else? Now, I have notes on her, but as soon as the caller ID popped up, I knew who she was and what house she was interested in a year and a half ago. Do you think I've now solidified that she called the right agent?
Yeah, absolutely.
How much time did it take me to save her in my phone that way?
2 seconds.
But that becomes the value. So my wife laughs at me. I have every restaurant, every business, every person I've ever talked to saved in my phone. So she's like, hey, can you call and see if we can get a reservation? Sure. Why would you have that restaurant saved in your phone? We were there once 2 years ago. I don't know. If I make a phone call, if I have to call you once, I'm going to save the number. Now, I do this with real estate agents too. John on Main Street. Hey, John, I worked with you a year ago on a deal. How's it going? Oh, awesome. I've got a buyer that's interested in your listing. Do you think now that he's more willing to work with me than he would be another agent off the street? Happens all the time. This industry is a lot smaller than people think. And that's why it is so vitally important that how you treat other agents and how things are handled in a deal can absolutely make or break your business moving forward. Because I know for a fact I've had buyers who submitted offers that were exactly the same as another. It was the highest and best situation. We offered, X amount over asking price, same number of days of closing, whatever. And the agent said, I know that you close deals. I know your reputation, either because I've worked with you or I know somebody who has. I know your reputation, so I encourage the seller to take your buyer's offer because I know you're going to do what it takes to get it done. There's value in that, guys. Always, always, always do your best when you're working with anybody, clients, agents, title people, lenders, whatever it is. Solidify yourself as the professional because you just never know when those things are going to come back. So same thing, use your telephone scripts, make the calls. Half the value is just in doing it. You don't have to get the script 100% right every time, but just make the calls. Schedule your follow-ups, add people to your smartphone, and then use your tracking system. Now, visit and research farm communities. Now, what is important before we can do this? What is it important to do before you can go visit or research a farm community?
Look up the community neighbor, events, anything.
Identify which community you want to farm, right? So before you can start visiting or researching, you have to know which ones you want to farm. Now, how do you decide which communities you want to farm? What do you think? Okay, that's a great place to start.
You know people that live there.
Okay, another great place to start. What else?
Nobody else is for it.
Uh-huh.
High prices or big turnover of houses.
Okay. What about communities that offer something that you also have an interest in? So that when you're working with people in those communities, you have a common interest. If it's a golf course community and I don't touch golf clubs, am I gonna be truly effective there? Probably not. If it's a 55 and up community, and I'm not 55 and up, do you think people are going to react to me the same way? Maybe not. No, I sell in 55 and up communities, but am I gonna farm them? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But these are the things you wanna think through when you say, what do I wanna farm? Now, do you guys understand what a farm really is?
It's a certain area, right?
So basically, a farm is an area that you choose to market. So we call this our farm area. Thinking back to older times, your farm was the area you worked. You know, that was your 80 acres of land that you tended and worked. And now we use the same term, but a farm community is basically an area that we are marketing to. We are doing our work in, we are investing in. So what you want to do is you want to identify 2 to 3 communities that you want to farm. In reality, you're probably going to farm one really hard, and then you're going to have 1 or 2 others that you do some farming in, but it's not going to be your primary focus. The risk is you don't want to become a jack of all trades, a master of none. You really want to kind of hone in. So start visiting and researching which farm communities. When you're starting, you might go, hey, there's 10 communities that are possible. Okay, I'll just use Foxwood. I live in Foxwood here in Trinity. I know of 9 realtors that live in this neighborhood that all farm it. Every single day, I'm getting something in my mailbox from some realtor that lives in the neighborhood. Can I farm Foxwood? Sure. But do you think it's a bit saturated if there are 9 realtors that are actively farming that community at the same time? Yeah, maybe so. So I farmed it for about a year. Really hard. Monthly mailers, phone calls, door knocking. And what I found was, oh, my neighbor John, he's the realtor. Or, you know, oh yeah, I know Debbie, the next street over. She's also a realtor. Do you know her? Yes, I know her, but that's not why I'm here. You know, that kind of becomes the conversation. So you might start with a big pool. Now, here's the other thing. Could you go into the MLS and see which properties have sold in there in the last 6 months? What does that tell you?
What's the turnover?
Turnover.
The turnover, who the agent was. If you see that there's one agent that's closing 80% of the deals in that community, do you still farm it?
I don't know.
For me, absolutely.
That's one competition.
That's one competition. All I have to do is run down one person to start getting a market share in this community. There's one agent that's selling them all, absolutely I'm going to run them down. But that's my competitive nature. Now, if there's 5 agents that are all closing 20% of the deals, you know, you might look at it differently. You might say, cool, there's room for 6. You know, I'm willing to take 15% of that community to keep, you know, each of us take 15. I can live with that.
They might be one of those 80%.
That's true. Absolutely.
So in 2 years.
Right. And that's the other part is, so you really want to identify, is there one agent that really owns this neighborhood? Or if you drive through the community and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's a ton of houses for sale on the same street. Well, why is everybody selling at the same time? Does this neighborhood have that much turnover legitimately? Or is there something going on in this community that's causing a mass exodus? You know, I'll tell you, there are HOA issues and there are things like that where people go, nope, I'm out. Well, maybe that's not the neighborhood I want to farm. If everybody's trying to leave the neighborhood, maybe I don't want to market that hard. I don't know. These are the kinds of things that you want to think about as you're researching your farm communities. Now, preview and evaluate active homes. What's the value in this?
Your name gets out there.
Okay. What else?
You get to see the supply.
Okay.
You might meet somebody.
What if you have a buyer that wants to go look at a home in your farm community? think you're able to answer questions about the house,
Mm,
much more so than if you've never seen it.
right.
Do you have a question? No? Okay. By previewing the active homes in your farm, you become the expert. Even if it's not my listing, I know every listing that's for sale in this community. When it comes up, you better believe I'm gonna have an appointment to go see it.
Would you go to open houses? Like
All the time.
Some days I love it.
Absolutely.
See what's up.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes you get a free food.
Free food.
Yeah. Mhm.
And you can hit a whole bunch.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that becomes the other thing is on open houses, absolutely. I can go and hit a whole neighborhood in an hour and a half.
Mhm.
Think it's a good use of your time?
Yes.
Absolutely. And you're meeting other agents in the community. So what does that do? Well, now all of a sudden they know me, right? So if I happen to have a buyer that wants to write an offer on their property, hey Jane, I met you at your open house last weekend. How are things going? Great news, I've got a buyer that wants to write an offer. Okay, the great part is she knows that you know the neighborhood and she knows who you are. You're not just another name on a contract. There is immense value to being able to preview active homes in your farm area. Now, what's the other value to knowing what type of homes are in there? Let's say you have a buyer that says, I really don't want carpet. And you've previewed every home in here and every single one of them have carpet. Do you think I'm gonna steer them to this neighborhood? Nope. These are the kinds of things that as you get to know, hey, I want a house that's completely updated. Okay, cool, this community was built in 1978 and about 20% of the homes have been updated. I know these types of statistics because I've been through these homes. I look at what's coming on the market. I look at what's selling. Is this an area where a bunch of investors are buying and using them as rentals? I know that too. Is this a neighborhood that's good for kids? Well, I've been through this neighborhood on Saturdays and there's kids everywhere riding bikes and blah, blah, blah. These are the kinds of things that you learn by going to visit houses on a Tuesday, visiting them during an open house on a Saturday or Sunday.
At night. Is very
At night,
important.
absolutely. So you want to become the expert. We want to position ourselves as the market expert in our farm. Now, learn about 5 communities, target farm areas. Preview 20 active homes for sale, evaluate them, and learn their floor plans. So if I'll use, this is kind of a big example, but if every house in this neighborhood has the master on the 2nd floor, and your buyer specifically says, I want a master downstairs. If you haven't previewed all the homes in here, do you know for a fact that, the majority of them have masters on the 2nd floor? No. But there are communities where that's the case. Living area on the 1st floor, bedrooms upstairs. That's just a lot of these communities. So these are things to know. Now, if I was looking for, and I'll use this as an example, I'm not stereotyping, don't throw anything at me. But if you're working a 55 and up community, do you think you're gonna farm houses that have bedrooms on the 2nd floor? No. Because it doesn't fit my demographic. So if I know this is typically the type of client I'm working with, and this is the neighborhood I wanna farm, those two things really should come together, right? So these, as you're thinking about, the 5 communities that you really wanna target, these are the types of things that you wanna think about. Do you think price point makes a difference? Okay. What is the price point of homes that are actively selling quickly? And by quickly, I mean in 30, 45 days or less. You guys know?
$200,000.
150 to 250. That's your sweet spot. Homes over 300, 350, they take longer to sell. So if I'm in a situation where I got 60 days worth of reserves in my bank account, I've got to get a deal closed. Am I going to start taking a bunch of $500,000 listings? No. Is that one of my farm communities? Absolutely. But I also want to farm a community that is in my sweet spot. That 150 to 250 price point where I know I can turn them over. Because if I take your listing and I get it under contract in 7 days, Do you think the seller's excited? You think they're gonna tell people? Think more business results from this? This is the thing. So yes, I want those $500,000, $1 million listings. Absolutely. Do I want to make that my entire business right out of the gate? Maybe not so much. Because if it's going to take me 6 months to sell this house, well, that's 6 months of me marketing and me doing open houses and me doing all these things before I see any return. Now, bear in mind, that return is good. You know, a commission on a $500,000 house is worth the wait. But I don't necessarily want to start right out of the gate for it. So I absolutely recommend having 2 different farms, one at one price point, one at another, or one for a certain type of buyer, one for another. What I don't want to do is I don't want to become a jack of all trades. I don't want to try and farm $1 million community and a golf course community and a 55 and up community and a, you know, starter family community, because then I'm just spread so thin. Can you realistically preview every new listing that comes up in 5 different communities? Not if you actually want to work with people. It just ties up. So you want to be specific. You really want to focus in on who do you want to sell to and what do you want to accomplish with it. Now, choose a listing to host an open house. So this week, the challenge is for all of you, if you have the ability, to find an agent in Florida Luxury that has a listing somewhere that you want to farm and see if you can do an open house for them. So, preferably you want it in one of your chosen farm communities. You want to find an active listing by a Florida Luxury Realty agent and request permission to host an open house for this weekend. What is the value of that?
No,
Meeting other agents that are bringing buyers by?
meet the neighbors.
Meet the neighbors? Absolutely. So if you're trying to pick up buyers and you're trying to get your business started, this is a phenomenal way to get going. Now, can we host an open house from an agent that's not a Florida Luxury agent?
Yes.
Absolutely. Oh, I have. When I had listings before I came to Florida Luxury, I had friends that did all my open houses. My RE/MAX agents didn't want to do open houses. So I had a friend at Century 21, I had a friend at Berkshire Hathaway, and when I got a new listing, I'm like, hey, you want an open house? Go for it. Didn't matter to me. So start with Florida Luxury, see if you can find an agent that, you know, but the problem is at Florida Luxury, we harp on open houses. We train on them. So everybody's super excited about getting open houses. But absolutely, I challenge you to go out and just host an open house. Now, are you going to have a better time at a house that is owner occupied or one that's vacant?
I don't know, I did both. I did one that was occupied and vacant, and I had more fun. I guess I had fun at both, because it was something that kept me company, because I only had 3 people that came through for the occupied.
Okay.
But the vacant, I had 13 people come, and I had nobody to talk to though, when it was a downtime.
Right.
So I don't know which one was.
So it was kind of a trick question, because there really is no right answer.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to get you guys thinking.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't matter. Vacant homes, open houses, absolutely. Owner occupied homes, for sure. It's got furniture in there. People can kind of imagine.
Yeah.
But let's imagine that this furniture is big and clunky and every room feels small now. And the buyer has very sleek, modern furniture that's much, much smaller. Do you think they're going to get a full appreciation of what that would be? No. They just go, wow, this living room is really small. They're not thinking, oh, I have this like much more compact furniture rather than this Victorian, you know, clawfoot, whatever. But as an agent, that's where you get to have fun and go, well, you know, what kind of style home do you have? What kind of furniture do you have? Talk to them about it. Have a conversation. Absolutely. Because we're the experts, right? So at the end of the day, that's what we're there for. We're there to help them figure out how to make this work for them. And if it doesn't work for them, what's next? You know what? I'm an expert in this community. Tell me what you're looking for, and I bet I can find it for you. What other resources do we have? Florida Luxury Agent Discussion Group. Almost every day somebody posts, hey, I've got a buyer that's looking for a 322 in this area. Does anybody have anything coming? More often than not, 2 or 3 responses pop up within a couple of hours. We are a huge company in that we have agents that are out there working. You know, there's always the 80-20 rule. You know, 20% of the agents do 80% of the business. But in Florida Luxury, that tends not to be the case. You know, we don't have 20% of the agents that are doing 80% of it because we're giving you guys these kinds of tools to allow you to get out there and be productive. So we don't want the 80-20. We want 50-50. We want 50% of the agents doing the other 50% of the business. We want everybody working. That's the value. So in the end, it's about going out and doing it. So week 1, we were building our foundation. We were learning our scripts. We were doing that. Now in week 2, we're taking that and we're ramping it up a bit. We're starting to get to know the communities. Now, just because you decide to farm a community today, does that mean you have to farm it forever? No, because things change. You know, there might be a period of rapid turnover because there's a new school coming in, or, you know, all of a sudden the school zones change. And now when everybody wanted this neighborhood, now they want that neighborhood. It changes. But by keeping your hand on the pulse and being tuned in to what's going on with market statistics and market trends and all of that, we position ourselves to be able to go, okay, cool, let's start marketing this neighborhood now. Let's get ahead of the trend and be able to start riding the wave rather than trying to swim and catch up. Those are the kinds of things. So as we go through this week, you know, really just pay attention to your farm areas, making your phone calls, reaching out to people, getting them thinking about real estate, getting them thinking about you in real estate, and then finding your farm community and just really plugging in and jumping in and, you know, just getting to know people that live there. Do you guys have any questions? Is that helpful?
Yes.
All right. Well, for everybody online, thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you on Thursday.